Since European colonisation began in Australia almost 250 years ago, 40% of its native land cover has been cleared. According to the concept known as planetary boundaries, which sets out the ecological and environmental limits of the planet, the world can remain a safe space for humanity with only 75% of its original land cover. We have already crossed this threshold, and it is pushing many other boundaries, such as genetic biodiversity and climate change, to the brink.
This has occurred at an average rate of 0.8% per year over the past 40 to 50 years, and it's the major driver behind loss of functioning ecosystems. This issue is the most notable in developing countries such as Brazil, Turkey, Russia, China, and India. India has already reached their capacity for agricultural land.
In Victoria alone, agriculture accounts for $3.1 billion annually, more than a third of total annual exports. Despite this, farming is now being affected by this new threat, land system change. Humanity may be reaching a point where further agricultural land expansion at a global scale may seriously threaten biodiversity and undermine regulatory capacities of the Earth system.
Because this boundary takes into account the state of the world as a whole, it is important to highlight spatial distribution and intensity of land system change. In Australia, Queensland and Western Australia have been huge loggers in the past, but to date, Victoria is the most cleared state and the situation is only to get worse.
Australia is estimated to have an annual rainfall of 472 mm, which is only higher than the Antarctica. And the majority of this water is used for agricultural industry, construction, and general public action are polluting what limited water we have and changing the landscape of the main Melbourne water source, like the Yarra and the Thomson River.
What we need is for Victoria's development to be controlled and to have purposeful legal protection of the greenbelt and surrounding native forests at the highest level. Instead, what we have is local governments siding with the developers because their funds are being squeezed and their council rates are capped, and even evidence of these local townships streamlining the application process so that plans for roads, houses and mines can be passed without even seeing the eyes of the councillors.
In this regard, Victoria would do well to follow Tasmania's example. Tasmania has seen landmark battles to protect its forests from state loggers and developers, and finally gained UNESCO World Heritage status in 2007. This has successfully prevented major land clearing in the region. Plans in Victoria to establish the Great Forest National Park aim to do just that. Covering the Central Highlands and Yarra Ranges, this would see the amount of protected forests and parklands in Victoria double, and protect countless endangered species such as the iconic leadbeater's possum. However, these are just plans and require strong political backing during the next election to become reality.
These land changes often prejudice the diversity of animals and plants. Then the composition of the fauna and flora is compromised, for its functioning structure is unbalanced. Investigations on streams of Melbourne pointed that communities of macroinvertebrates are being affected by the poor quality of the streams. The streams become polluted due to the large hard areas which covers the surface and do not allow the rainwater to infiltrate in the soil. This rainwater flows into the streams carrying different types of pollutants, which originated from the urban areas, harming life that depends on the good quality of the stream's water.
Land system change is affecting farmers directly by destroying natural resources and fertile land. This is causing a decrease in overall farmland in Victoria, as farm or grazing land gets sold for commercial purposes. Consequently, this expansion also means that there are more mouths to feed, which is a problem in itself. According to the World Health Organization, the world will need an extra 70% food production by 2050 for everyone to have food security. This adds enormous pressure to all farmers, as they have to find ways to get greater yield with less land. Many farmers, because of this, are turning to horticulture or adding it into their practices. Horticulture is by far the best option to help tackle food security due to its diversity and advancements. Things such as biomimicry and GMs, or genetically modified plants, are a thing of the future. This advancement is helping with drought resistance, pest resistance, and greater yield plants. Biomimicry is also another example that is helping food security. Farmers across the world are using what is known as the American prairie farming technique. Since prairies grow close together and at alternative depths, there is little to no room for other plants such as weeds to grow. They also offer great diversity and natural resistance to many threats.
A reduction in water use can be achieved by following a vision for water-sensible city. Case study which indicate a city called Zaragoza in Spain, which has the same climate condition as Australia, managed to cut its per person water use from 190 to 105 liters by developing a 100 liter per person per day main water consumption target and rewarding the community when a target is met. There are more studies on saving water from Germany, Singapore, London, and the US on the document. Biomimicry. The stony-crab beetle is a master water collector. It lives in a harsh, dry, desert environment and is able to survive due to the unique design of its shell. The back of the stony crab is covered in a small, smooth balm that serves as collection point for condensed water or fog. The entire shell is covered in a sleek, teflon-like wax and is channeled so that condensed water from morning fog is funneled into the beetle's mouth. Researchers at MIT have been able to build on a concept inspired by the stony crab shell, and first described by Andrew Parker. They have crafted a material that collects water from the air more efficiently than the existing design. About 22 countries around the world collect water from the air using nets. So such a boost in efficiency could have a big impact in the climate of Melbourne.
There are three main solutions that could keep the humanity within this boundary. First of all, it's necessary to allocate cropland to the most productive areas. Secondly, keep the high conservation value ecosystems in their current status. Also, maintaining carbon-rich soils in a careful managed condition or even undisturbed. And third, to manage the food consumption per capita and wastage in the food distribution chain. In addition, a great alternative to extend this boundary is the biomimicry. That is, agriculture systems that better mimic natural processes, such as complex agro-ecosystems. There are more solutions, although regarding other boundaries, such as biodiversity, water, and climate change, that could induce changes in continental scale when land cover thresholds are crossed. For example, converting the Amazon forest into grazing systems more than bearable may reach a level of irreversible transformation to a semi-arid savanna. At a global scale, if the land with the best potential to provision is lost to degradation or urbanization, the food production may spread into lower yield lands that have even a greater risk of degradation.